Hi, everyone. I'm Blanca Quezada, and I'm your host for Spotlight Houston. And before I begin today's interview, I have a fantastic announcement to make. Sandra Fernandez, the show's producer, and I are beyond excited to share with you that we have officially reached our 100th episode. It's a huge milestone for us to reach, but we've made it. We've had a lot of fun beginning the show, and we've had a lot of great guests for the show here in Houston that are here in Houston. And they've talked about our community organization, special events, festivals, and so much more. We hope that our show has enlightened you and brought you smiles too. We want to thank all of our amazing guests for their time and generosity in sharing their knowledge with us. And we also want to thank you as well for your support and your suggestions. We hope you've had fun with us. We lift up our glasses to all of you because you have helped make this 100th episode celebration possible for us. We invite you to continue listening to our next 100th episode.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Houston. This week, we learned more about the Houston SPCA and the many things we didn't know about what they do. We sat down with Julie Kuenstle, Vice President of Communications for the Houston SPCA, to learn more about the animals, the community, the volunteers, and so much more. This is episode 100. And for those of you who are regular listeners, thank you for joining us on our journey. And for those of you who are new, thank you for giving us a chance. Today's episode has an original air date of Monday, August 12th, 2024. And now your host, Blanca Quezada.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. We are so excited. As I mentioned earlier, this is our 100th episode and hoping to bring you more. But today we have a great animal lover, and just like me and Sandra as well, she is Julie Kuenstle. She is with the Houston SPCA. She is the Vice President of Communication. The Houston SPCA is an iconic nonprofit organization that has been a voice for the voiceless, right? Because these little creatures can't say anything. They just look at you if they're not feeling well, and you can just tell in their little eyes that they're sick or something's going on. And also, it's a no-kill shelter that has been in our community, I'm happy to say, more than 100 years. Just so us celebrating their 100th episode and them celebrating 100 years, it was meant to be. So, and they're also dedicated to providing many different services to abused and neglected cats and dogs, but also many other types of animals like farm animals and the wildlife here in Houston, because sometimes we forget about them. But Julie, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I love and I feel honored to be here for your 100th episode. And like you mentioned, it's meant to be. We're celebrating 100 years, and that just shows a lot of hard work has been put into your show. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah, we've been trying to bring the best guests to our show, and you're one of the best.
Oh, appreciate that.
Y'all do such a great job over at the Houston SPCA, and you have so many services, resources, and just a lot of programs for little kids to adults, right?
We do. In fact, we just kind of closed the gap on this one tiny piece, and that was college students. And so, starting with school presentations, we are in the schools since with celebrating our 100th anniversary, we really dug into our archives, and there was like so much black and white pictures of us, photos of people in schools doing school presentations, having people on our campus doing tours, Girl Scout tours, Boy Scout tours. And so we started as early as kindergarten and doing presentations there. And then we have our summer program that reaches about 650 kids every summer for our critter camp.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an educational camp where a lot of our animal experts, like our animal cruelty investigators or our veterinarians or our veterinary techs, our animal care specialists go in and talk to so many different kids just to kind of plant seeds and explain to them and have them understand that animals come to a shelter through no fault of their own, and that we don't bully our friends. And guess what? We don't bully animals either. And it's important to speak up if you see someone who's hurting an animal. And we hope to be also inspiring future veterinarians as well. There is a national shortage right now of veterinarians and veterinary techs, and that is impacting not just animal shelters across the country, but it's also impacting clinics and veterinary hospitals across the United States. And so education is more important than ever. And we just started, our chief veterinarian, Dr. Roberta Westbrook, just started a summer intern program for college students who are interested in applying to veterinary school or have an interest in working in the veterinary field. And so they come to our campus, and it's a paid internship, and they work in wildlife, they work in the barn, they work with companion animals and small pets, and they're exposed to so much. It really helps guide them on where they want to go in terms of applying for veterinary school or going to a veterinary tech institute. And then you talk about educating pet owners. A lot of our investigators are out in the field, and they're just sharing information to pet owners with the goal of improving the life of the animal. And so we're very excited to be able to provide a really comprehensive education program that starts from kindergarten and goes all the way up.
Yeah, I think a little earlier you mentioned a key word, understanding, knowing, and especially how to provide quality care for a pet or an animal that you might see that's in need of help.
Absolutely. And a lot of those, we do have adoptions, but we have an equine and farm animal program. We have a pet safe program. It's families who are fleeing domestic violence. We will keep their pet until they out of harm's way, because a lot of times victims don't want to leave because they can't go to a place that will also accept their pet. And so we take that out of the equation so that they can get the help that we need. We provide basic services for them. We also we do a lot of transfers in from a lot of organizations and rescues, and we also transfer out quite a bit of animals, especially if we do large scale rescues. We've done rescues in years past. We rescued 200 horses. If you can imagine that all at one time. In the early 2000s, we rescued close to a dozen. It was 11 bears, a tiger, and a couple of other animals. We wound up actually installing an exotic suite for exotic animals because of that time period where that was happening. And so we call ourselves the Campus for All Animals, because we feel that if someone was to come to us and say, hey, we really need help, we need some rescue, we say yes, and then we figure it out. We work very closely with a lot of animal welfare organizations around the country, especially Hurricane Harvey. A lot of animal welfare organizations reached out to us. They sent teams, and it was sorting food. It was out rescuing in boats. And so that collaboration is important, and it's key that you have relationships, because we all have a passion for animals. We all have a passion for people's pets and reuniting them and getting them back home. A lot of those things.
So, Julie, how was it when Hurricane Beryl hit? I'm sure you had to rescue a lot of animals. I'm sure that a lot of pets were displaced and then became neglected through no fault, maybe of families or their owners. But so how was that experience for y'all at the Houston SPCA?
So Hurricane Beryl was a little different. I think it caught us all a little bit by surprise, just because, from our city and our county, we've been responding to natural disasters since the early 80s. And so as per usual, even though we're watching, initially they said Mexico, and then they said Corpus Christi, and then they said Matagorda, and we watched it get closer and closer. We are still going to prep. Our boats were out, equipment was out. Our emergency response teams were prepared. The day before, we brought in all of our horses and farm animals from another farmed area and brought them into our campus and secured them in their stalls. We were prepared in that regard, but we weren't prepared for the damage that was going to be done. Hurricane force winds, by the time it had passed through, we got a call that there were hundreds and hundreds of egrets and nesting egrets and heron in this one neighborhood that had been blown out of their nests. And you can imagine the torrential rain. You've got hurricane force winds, you've got torrential rain. The adults naturally just fly away. They don't care for their young in that regard. And so a lot of them were killed, unfortunately, when they hit the concrete or they drowned. Within hours, our wildlife team was able to safely it was like North Houston. We're able to safely get there. And for hours, I was there taking pictures and video and helping. For hours, they went through one by one and they picked up every baby egret, every baby heron, and placed them in boxes. Neighbors were wonderful. They were also providing us additional boxes. We brought 200 boxes and we were putting 3 or 4 at a time, but we were surprised and very happily surprised how many were still alive. They were rolled over because they were cold. So we got as many as we can. We helped them remove the dead out of their yard, and that also helped us ensure that we weren't leaving any of these birds behind. Got them into the van, got them over to our wildlife center, which we are very blessed to have. It's also a trauma hospital. So we got them in, got them triaged, got them in warmed up in incubators as soon as we could. And that was just doing the intake. That was a day's work. And first thing in the morning, which would have been that Tuesday, there was a line out the door at the Wildlife Center, which is on our campus at the Houston SPCA. It was 15 deep. Just that Tuesday, there was over 700 orphaned or injured wildlife that had come into our center. And we were just kind of overwhelmed with, I guess, gratitude that there were so many caring people who, I'm sure many had property damage, have lost trees, that they cared enough to bring in these animals. A lot of songbirds. We even got a pelican from Galveston. We got a bald eagle.
Yeah, because I know up in Cyprus, there's a lot of eagles up there.
Yeah, we actually had one brought in. And so there was a lot. There was opossums. There were squirrels. There were quite the variety. And it was nice to see everybody had a story to tell, like how they found and cared for until they could safely bring them to the wildlife center. And we always ask folks, please don't try to feed, don't try to give them water. Just put them in a box with some soft rags and shoebox if you can safely do so, and get them to us as soon as possible. But with this storm, we lost power. Thankfully, we had a generator, but our call center was down. So we were, what they say, making do, right? So we put some notes up on the website and opened up our doors and did the best we can. And I think by the 11th, by that 7th day, the total was over 1,800. And so impacted from Hurricane Beryl. And so,
excuse me, have they all been released by now?
So they've been releasing them quite a bit. This Friday, we are actually going to be releasing 10 Mississippi kites, because I said, please don't forget that the media team, we want to make sure that because as soon as they're ready, because we probably, especially the baby herons, they said it was going to take at least 4 weeks because we didn't want to release them until they could fly. So we have an outdoor flight complex that they had been moved to 2 weeks ago. And so this allowed them to learn how to fly. And so we wouldn't put them back out there until they were ready for that. But yes, very soon we'll be releasing those Mississippi kites and we'll be able to capture that. So we're super excited about that.
And how were you able to feed so many of these little creatures, and especially the wildlife, because they have, special nutrition needs?
Well, administration really stepped in. We had our development team, our communications team, while we were taking pictures and video. We were also helping with triage and moving box. We're not wildlife experts, but we can move a box out of the way, and we can hand out clipboards to get people to fill out their information. And everybody was helping out and doing their part. We were leaving the expert part to the wildlife experts. And I also have to mention, we can't do what we do without volunteers. And so our volunteers really stepped up and helped out a lot with that. So for that, we're very grateful.
And I'm sure that you had a lot of vets helping out with, when they could, if they could, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because we still had animals coming in through our animal cruelty investigations team. So there were cases that still needed to be seen once it was safe to get back on the roads. And so animals were still coming in. And so it really was, when it's a natural disaster, it's always all hands on deck. And as soon as we can get in safely, we are there until we're back to quote normal. And that's just how we serve. We know when we work for the Houston SPCA, that's what the expectation is. And we're glad to do it.
Yeah. Usually when we talk about animal shelters, we just think about adopting a cat or a dog, but never a farm animal or, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of exotic animals too that have been or have gone through the SPCA, like the tigers and the bears. And a lot of people tend to also have monkeys, these spider monkeys or the snakes or things that they aren't very familiar with, but they just like them. And so that's not a good idea.
It really isn't. People have to have permits, and they're really cute when they're small. You mentioned a spider monkey. I remember we had a spider monkey, and it was really sad, but we wound up finding a sanctuary for them. So when we get exotic monkeys, and this particular monkey was addicted to Netflix and was kept outside, didn't know how to drink water. It only knew how to use a water bottle. So we would open it up. And when we finally got the spider monkey settled, I remember them bringing in all these vegetables and fruit and vegetables for him. And I remember they turned on some classical music because it would be cruel to not have any kind of noise. So the spider monkey was used to watching movies and the noise of the Netflix and things like that. So we at least turned on some classical music. But we eventually found a spot for him at a sanctuary in San Antonio. And it was great that he was able to go on and be a spider monkey, right? And have an opportunity to learn that and live that life. But it's very unfortunate that there's some animals that are not, and I've seen this a lot on Instagram. A lot of people humanize animals and think it's cute. What they don't see is after the camera's turned off, where are they and where are they kept and how are they cared for?
Right. And they usually get them when they're little without thinking that or realizing that these little animals are going to grow up pretty big, like the potbelly pigs. They're really cute when they're tiny, but then they get over 100 pounds. So
they get big. And if you're not prepared for that, then yes, we do see Vietnamese potbelly pigs quite often, and we have them in our barn, and we keep them until they can find a really good owner. Obviously, if you adopt a horse or a farm animal, 99.9% of them come through animal cruelty investigations. So there is a lot of work and rehabilitation. It's not just veterinary care. A lot of them go into a refeeding program. They've lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds of weight. And then the training begins. Some of them have never been touched before. And it's remarkable, our equine team, that really not only heals their physical illness or weight loss, but they also rehabilitate their spirit as well. And it's great to see and hear them talk when they said, "Oh my gosh, you're being really sassy this morning," when they're talking about the horse. And I said, "Is that a good thing?" And they're like, "Absolutely. That means they feel alive. They want to talk back and go, well, I don't want to do that today." So they're like, "No, that's a really good sign." So I always remember that when they said that, because it's a good sign that they're doing better.
Yeah, I've seen photos of some of the situations that they're in. And I mean, you can see all their bones, their ribs, but once they get rehabilitated, they're beautiful animals.
They really are. And they're up for adoption. And it's great to see people who love animals and want to give animals a second chance.
Yeah.
Because it's really not, it's not their fault, obviously. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just they've been failed by humans.
Yeah. So, Julie, does the Houston SPCA have a helpline?
So our main number, which is 713-869-7722, is our main number. And that goes directly to our call center. And if they have a question, they can connect them to someone in the area of what they're looking for, or they themselves, our call center is quite versed in a lot of, I guess, a lot of inquiries. And so they can call that main number. They can also go to our website. We have blogs on different topics, on different animal topics. And then when a person adopts an animal, we're always available for questions through our animal care specialists as well. So,
yeah. Well, on a normal month or months that we have, about how many animals do you have?
oh, wow. That's a really good question. So I remember one time last summer, we counted everything and it was close to 1,000. We can have anywhere between 300 and 500 in our hospital, which is our old shelter, by the way, on 900 Portway. We gutted that and turned that into our animal hospital, and as well as fostering and rehoming, since we have our new campus. Adoptions, there's usually anywhere between 99 and 120, 130 available for adoption. And so it's different every single day, because we could have a rescue of 50 dogs tomorrow. And so the numbers fluctuate. We also have a transport program. So if we've got a group, say we do a rescue, and the majority of these animals, for instance, were in a hoarder and they all were close to the same kind of breed, say Chihuahuas. I remember Hurricane Harvey, we had like 45 Chihuahuas that all came in. And I remember, because I'd only been there about 6 weeks, and I said, they're like, they're going to rescue. And I said, well, what rescue is going to take 45 Chihuahuas? They're like, it's a Chihuahua rescue. They have all the connections. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of that kind of work where we entrust them to folks that we know have connections with folks who just, they live for that particular breed, and we send them their way. And that helps make room for us to be able to handle more animals. And so
Yeah, thank goodness there are a lot of animal lovers in this city.
I had heard that there is 500 registered 501c3 animal groups, and that blew me away. But to be honest, if you really think about it, there's so many people that love and care for animals. And so things have definitely come a long way for animals, and fostering did some almost magical things for animals during COVID. And so it really put it in fostering in the national spotlight. And so I thought that was a really good thing.
Yeah. What do you think about people that are getting chickens now?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I mean, they're taking care of them. We have chickens, goats, sheep, lambs that are born in our barn, pigeons that are up for adoption, guinea pigs, ferrets, even rats, reptiles. Then a lot of them all come through like animal cruelty cases. I think it's wonderful. You're taking good care of chickens. And I think I know people talk about, they really have a big personality.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. I don't know anything about chickens, but that's what I heard. So do you have like classes and educational program to show how to take care of these particular type of farm animals? Or
well, we rely on the folks who are going to adopt them, that the majority of them already know how to take care of them. It is a major undertaking to teach someone how to take care of a horse. The expectation is that you are, based on your application, that you have the space, you have the trailer, you have the farrier, you have all of these folks in place to help you take care of your horse and have the knowledge to do so. Now, if you want to adopt a horse, the majority of folks who do adopt from us already have that, or they know of someone who will help them, if that makes sense. And so I'm sure if you wanted to adopt a chicken, for example, not a horse, but a chicken, Linnea, who is our fabulous equine team manager, would be more than happy to walk you through that, and to be ecstatic to guide you through that.
So the Houston SPCA has so much to offer, a lot more than we know. I mean, you have special clinics for people to come in and get their little pets checked out, given medications, making sure that they're healthy.
We just opened up our brand new pet wellness clinic last fall. And so, super excited. It has preventatives. And I myself took my 3 dogs, and it was 50% less than what I normally pay. And I don't go to a very expensive place. So I was very happy. And so that's where my dogs are going now. Is that
and they get And they get the all important microchip, right?
Yes. Well, they already had a microchip and they had those things, but it was time for the regular vaccines, their annual vaccines, because I try to get everybody on the same schedule and do it all at once. And so it was nice to compare that in terms of it's affordable preventive care for own pets. And so it's nice to see. But you can get a microchip there. You can get a heartworm test, just a lot of preventative stuff. And we hope soon that we'll be able to do spay and neuter as well.
So, Julie, how can we help out other than volunteering or fostering?
Oh, I so appreciate that question. I always believe that we all have something to give. It's just, what's your gift? And everybody has a different season in their life. And so that changes. So we do have a robust volunteer program, and an arm of that is fostering. But a lot of people will donate their time based on their skill set. So we have some folks that volunteer their time making phone calls to our donors just to say thank you. And that really surprises people. Are like, oh, you're just calling to say thank you? And so that helps us a lot because we do really want to thank everybody in person, but we don't always have the time. So we have volunteers who do that. We have volunteers who are photographers, professional photographers, and they're retired, and they'll come and take some really nice photos for our pets to help them get adopted, or whatever their skill sets, they're willing to donate that. Or, you know what, if you're super busy, we'd appreciate someone being a monthly donor, no matter what that amount is, and you just set it and forget it. And so there's just a lot of different ways that you can help based on whatever your interest is.
Food? What about donating food?
We do take donated food, donated dog food. So our wildlife center uses dog food. Curly Hills they feed all of our shelter pets right now, but the wildlife center, they use it for all of the hundreds and hundreds of opossums that come in. And we'll take an unopened bag, most certainly, as long as it's not expired. We'll take that. We'll also take, for a wildlife center, if you really want to give something, gift cards to grocery stores, because you can imagine all of the nuts and the fruits and the veggies that we have to purchase. In fact, we had someone in marketing department running to go pick up some fruit that was needed very quickly for the songbirds. We all kind of we're doing our part, but grocery gift cards.
They have different nutrition needs. So
they do. We weren't expecting the influx. And then, we have groups who want to make things for us. And so we appreciate that. The Wildlife Center always can use just these felt pockets so that the squirrels and the baby opossums can go inside when they're in the incubators. So, and that's an easy lift. You get a circle of friends, you start cutting felt and do a couple of stitches and you're done. It doesn't even have to be perfect because those squirrels aren't very judgy.
So, Julie, I wish we had more time because there's so many stories that you've got and so much more that we can learn from the Houston SPCA. So before we go, what is your website?
Oh, thank you so much. It's HoustonSPCA.org.
And your phone number?
Is 713-869-7722. And I also want to share, we have a 24-hour animal ambulance for unowned, injured animals. And it's really easy to remember. If you see an animal in distress on the side of the road, the number is 713-880-HELP.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for joining us, especially to celebrate your 100th anniversary and our 100th episode.
It's been wonderful.
It's been great to have you here. I know I've learned a lot more about what services and programs and just everything that the Houston SPCA provides, plus more. So if anybody would like to help out, become a volunteer, or donate any way you can, please get in touch with Julie or with the phone number that she provided, and somebody there will help you. And of course, I'd like to thank y'all as well for joining me for this edition of Spotlight Houston. And as always, also, if you have any story ideas, please contact us.